All right, all my little YouTube motherfuck faces. You're watching Validation Boy. Live stream. November 26th, 2020. And yeah, today's Thanksgiving. And you know, I'm thankful for God. I'm thankful for Jesus Christ. And I'm thankful for my family. Even though half of them are kind of cucked out liberals that buy into all the self-hating propaganda that the Jays want our people to believe in. And before I get started, it's funny. I had a great conversation with someone very close to me in my life. And she brought up the point that even the term woke has been hijacked. Because yeah, woke back in 2015, it meant you knew about Handy Shook, and you knew about 9/11, and you knew about the Boston Marathon, and you knew about Flat Earth, and you knew about space being a hoax, and you knew about history being a hoax. You knew about the red pill, the gynocracy, all those things. And now, being woke in the year 2020, what does it mean? It means you're an anti-white person of color who wants to attack all things Christianity. So, woke used to be exposing the agenda of those people. And now, those people have hijacked woke to mean, oh yeah, you're someone who's completely disobedient to God's laws. And that's what allegedly makes you, quote, woke now. It's disgusting, man. As per tradition, first 5 in the live are as follows. In at number 1, a highly honored participant, it is Bostic. In at number 2, a legend and an icon, it is Not C. In at number 3, YouTube. In at number 4, Eugene 12, who says, please wear the mask. And in at number 5, Barbara McGill. Great to have all of you. And before I forget, if I've helped change your life, if I've helped open your eyes, you can add to the Validation Boy Salvation Fund that you see at the top comment in the live chat. And you see streaming across the bottom of the screen throughout the entirety of this video. If I've had any kind of positive influence on your life, your tips and donations will be greatly appreciated. But enough of that. Jimbo Khan in at number 6. You got it. Now, there are obviously a huge amount of problems facing Western civilization these days. A huge amount of problems facing Western civilization. But, you know, myself, after having lived a life moving from rabbit hole to rabbit hole for the last 10 years, I've finally been able to see the big picture. All these problems can be boiled down to one thing. And that problem, that main problem, and a lot of you aren't going to like this, that problem is multiracialism. Now, the PC name for this problem is, of course, multiculturalism. But I believe the real issues we face transcend culture. They all have to do with race. So culture and race are, indeed, 2 different things. But due to the fact that most races naturally self-segregate, it's considerably rare for any given individual to defy their particular race's stereotypes. Now, yes, there are these white losers out here who try to pretend that they're black or Hispanic when they adopt the, that all too familiar clownish caricature of hip-hop thuggishness. And these stooges, they're everywhere. But I don't count them, because eventually these people should grow out of this childish phase that they're in when they do that. Or otherwise, they're going to end up either dead or in prison. We all know that to be true. Now, there's many psychological issues that have to be stewing in such a person's head that would lead them to adopt this, ridiculous, fucking staged stereotype persona. I'm talking about the whiteys who pretend to be all hip-hop. Most often, it's the desire to fit in and the desperate need for external validation. Some fucked up part of their brain tells them that they need such validation from the very morons and criminals who comprise their local hip-hoppy scene, their local hip-hop populace, if you will. In my personal experience, I find that these people typically use this clown persona in kind of a desperate attempt to get access to sex. And it's all a parrot act. Meanwhile, while these losers are playing this contrived little role, they're unknowingly opening themselves up to all of the hatred for whitey that comes along with it. And this hatred for whites in the hip-hop scene, it stems from a place of insecurity and fear, really. After all, there must be a reason for white dominance. And it's hard for the minority to acknowledge their lot in life. Now, those people that do that pretend to be someone, Big Mac Miller Light in the house, they could fall by the wayside as far as I'm concerned. We really just don't need them around anymore because they're too far gone and they've already been basically infected with that idiotic mentality. They'll probably never be able to come back from it. So these aren't necessarily the ones that are worth saving, but there are others who are worth saving. The ones who are more likely to deserve help are the ones who would, at the very least, have the guts to think of themselves as truthers, right? However, so many who claim to be truthers here on YouTube fall short. They'll even go so far as to talk about the flat earth. And they'll talk about how history is itself mostly a hoax. They'll even talk about how the election is a fraud. Yet, they still refuse, for some fucking reason, to state the most obvious truth of all. That truth is too unsettling for them, and they're frankly cowards. Churchianity still has them convinced that they need to be inclusive of the seed of Cain. Not C says hip-hop culture is responsible for the prison population. They are all in on it. Glorifying crime, resulting in more prisons. Now, back to these people. These truthers. Even these hardcore Christian, churchianity, flat earth truthers. These controversial thoughts that these people are exploring, they refuse to take them to their obvious conclusion. And that's due to an underlying bias towards liberalism. And so, I refer to these people as self-hating white cucks. They just don't want to admit to themselves the fact that all of our problems stem from one big thing. The filthy hordes of pre-Adamics who have infested our lands and bring with them their fucktard approach to life. Just like a diseased body, we, as the nation of Israel, the real nation of Israel, we're now left to constantly battle against an infection. And this infection, this battle, keeps us from growing and developing the way we were originally meant to. It's holding us back. That's on purpose. All of this is by design. The vast majority of infectious cells honestly lack the understanding that it takes to be able to contribute much of anything of value to our society. And a lot of times it looks like they're just proud of this fact. In fact, in my own personal experience, it seems, based on my feelsies, it seems that they will go out of their way to make everyone else around them suffer. And I'm starting to think that's because misery loves company. And they are inherently miserable. But you may ask, why are they inherently miserable, validation boy? Well, the answer should be obvious. Anyone born into such burdens would be miserable. What do you got? Sloppy genetics, malfunctioning brains, addiction to cocaine right from birth, no culture whatsoever given to them by their elders, who are typically a single mother, might I add, and countless other naturally occurring shortcomings. All these things lead them straight into a life of cultural deficiency. And whose fault really is that? At first glance, this all seems like it's rather cruel of me to say, right? But what you should be asking yourself is it really your job to fix all of these people's problems? Of course they expect you to. And that, my friends, is the root cause of so much of our suffering. Seems like as far as they're concerned, the Adamic peoples owe them everything. And this attitude, it had to have come from somewhere. Those of us in the know who have been following me since I had this great revelation should know exactly what I'm talking about. And it starts with the letter J. You know, that's where these things had to have come from. So in reality, we need to bring about the end of this so-called multiculturalism. We need to establish firm and unbreakable parameters for our people to safely exist within, in order to solidify our place in this world. This is what God commands of us, and frankly, we deserve it. Everybody has the right. Everybody has the right, except for God's bloodline, apparently. We need to unite our people, and we need to keep our people moving in the same direction in the name of ambition and prosperity. God handed us a silver platter full of blessings. And as of right now, we as a race are basically shitting all over that silver platter. To reestablish our parameters would be the most productive thing we could ever do to save God's bloodline and preserve the kingdom of heaven. I hope this is getting through to you guys. I mean, I've spent the last 10 years on all these rabbit holes, just trying to sort things out. And it seems like everything has this common thread through it all. It's the destruction of our people. Why are we the only ones that are being persecuted so heavily? We're the only ones being persecuted by anyone anywhere at all in this entire world. Okay? There may be some island in East Asia, or there may be some tribe in Africa somewhere that's getting persecuted by some warlord. But as far as from a governmental perspective and a world power perspective, you know, like the United Nations, all these things, yeah, this is like a global agenda to destroy our people. Like en masse, like an entire race of humans, the white race. Nobody else is going through that right now. We got to preserve we got to preserve God's bloodline and preserve the kingdom of heaven, right? Now I hear all these half-truthers complaining, bitching and moaning about how their suffering is so brutal, and yeah, I'm guilty of it too. But in reality, all we need to do is cause a true uprising of God's Adamic bloodline, And we could solve all these problems at once. Potentially. Potentially in 1 or 2 days, we could solve all the problems and take this government back and create a land that would, we could create a place on this land. And out of that, it would give us everything that we deserve. Everything that we were given by God and everything we worked for and earned. All the things that our ancestors worked so hard to establish. Yeah, Barbie McGill says, talk to Jed, VB. He's a true revisionist. Oh, I know. Jed's been putting out excellent content lately. Now, I look around on YouTube in the truth community, and I see all these beautiful, white, Adamic faces. And I just want to say a prayer for God's elect. And I can only hope that some of these people somehow maybe even hook up with each other and make a bunch of beautiful little Adamic babies and add to God's river of life. We need to multiply. We need to be numbered as the grains of sand. We need to be numbered as the stars in the heavens. We need to fulfill that prophecy for our race that's laid out in the last page of the Bible, the last book of the Bible, Revelation 22. When it talks about the river of life and the 12 gates that comprise the river of life and the tree of life that hangs over the river of life with its 12 fruits, its 12 months of menstruation, and how we need to contribute to that very river. Don't forget that that's what that's all about, guys. XYZ, Z-Rune, Barbara McGill, Into the Break. So excellent to have you guys. People were so worried, when they discovered Flat Earth. A lot of them. They're worried, like, wow, this is kind of super dark, Like, I can't believe the Earth is freaking flat, and, like, I've been fooled this whole time. And wow, it's true. The Earth really isn't a globe. This is crazy. And then they realize, oh, it's actually not that dark of a conspiracy. It's actually a pretty bright and happy conspiracy. But through the Flat Earth, I discovered the hidden gynocracy. Through the Flat Earth, I've discovered the true dangers of mass leftism. And then finally, through Flat Earth, I discovered the truth about God and his actual children. And then when you look at everything through the lens of God versus Satan, and you see what the entire Bible is describing as a never-ending war against God's bloodline, that's what the Bible is. It's a description of the never-ending persecution of God's children. And you see all that, and then it takes you all the way down into this deep, 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 dark rabbit hole. And so many truthers out here are just scared. They're just fucking scared to talk about this shit. Because they're still suffering from that liberalism that was indoctrinated into them, like on the first day of first grade. That's how long it's been hitting you. You've been indoctrinated. Now, let's move on. Big Mac Miller Light says, Jesus tits, VB. I'm making a very serious video right now about the tree of life and the waters of heaven, bro. Look out. I'm going to shake some things up. Well, yeah. Nocturnal Intern, great to have you. Barbara McGill says she is a bit scared herself. I mean, there's nothing really to be scared about because God created us to replace Satan as rulers of this world. And yeah, we keep messing up. And then he punishes us. But in the end, we're his children. So we're still priority number one. Now let's move on. America would have never even considered communism if it weren't for the never-ending barrage of propaganda we're all indoctrinated with that comes straight from the Jays. all of the non-Adamics who have been shipped into America are part of the J's master plan. And so often, they come from communist countries. And isn't it so ironic that these people leave these commie countries to come here for the American dream, only to find that there are these dark forces lingering here, trying to shove them straight back into communism. And how fucked up it is the fact that these shadowy fucking forces they know that they can easily achieve their goals because the people they're shipping in are honestly way too fucking stupid to comprehend what it is that they are being used for. That's why they're here. These cucked third world fucking tards are very unlikely to ever truly stand up for themselves, especially not when they're here. You know, they've been so easily conditioned to expect handouts. And, you know, the Jays convinced them that expecting handouts is the right way to live their lives. They're indoctrinated to believe this reaping of benefits at the expense of God's people is justified. Now, because of God's blessings, we do have most of the resources that are currently in demand. Yes. But this is only right. This is the way things are supposed to be. Now, sure, the Middle East, they have oil, but the Adamic race are the ones responsible for teaching them how to harvest that oil and teaching them the value of that oil. And then you want to argue against me and say, oh yeah, maybe China. Well, sure, China has the nearly unlimited resource, right, of a self-replicating fucking clone army workforce. But none of the technology they use came from them. It all came from the Adam. They would be nothing without us. No better than the worst parts of Africa. As far as economically and culturally and everything. Now, the only way to take down the Adamic bloodline is through slow genocide. The Jays know that they can never build a strong enough army out of any one group of people in this world that could stand up to us by force. So instead, what they've done is successfully creep their third wave feminism and their memes of anti-whiteism into the minds of the retard masses and arrange it all so that we, the Adam, end up defeating ourselves from within. Is it not true that whiteys get rewarded by the turd masses when we display self-hatred? Is that not true? And as I've said many times before, hip-hop culture is the vehicle by which all of this fucking bullshit is possible. This is why circumstances get set up that lead to the overpopulation of traditionally white areas with non-whites. This is the way that communism can be crept in. And it's also, the real reason behind communism is so that God's race can be exterminated. That's the real meaning, the real purpose of communism. It's to exterminate God's children. Because that's the end result. People don't want to go there. Oh no, it's just a dark government new world order that's going to put a chip in us and everything's going to be a dystopia. No, that's not the plan. The plan is extermination of the Adamic bloodline. End of story. So that's why all of the conspiracies contribute to that one main goal, that one main agenda, the literal extermination and genocide of God's children. Okay, people? This is the big one. I've been trying to tell you guys this forever. This is the fucking big one. How much longer are we going to allow our precious little Adamic seedlings to be indoctrinated by these bitter anti-white propagandists in our so-called schools? Are these people really qualified to teach our own children about our own culture? No, they're not. All they want to do is tell our children how inherently evil they are because of the color of our skin. Now, as far as I'm concerned, we, as God's children, need to start mocking the anti-white celebrity influencers. We need to let the world know exactly why people like J-Lo and the sort are disgusting creatures who should never be perceived as some kind of symbol of beauty. These demonic entities should never be idolized. We need to point out their evils, and we need to do it on a grand scale. These truths need to be constantly pointed out within our own mainstream culture. Like we need to introduce these thoughts back into mainstream society. They've been shoved out for the purpose of dehumanizing God's children so that then God's children can then more easily be exterminated. Okay? So we need to take all of that back. We need to warn our people of these uncomfortable facts, and we need to do it often. We need to constantly reinforce the fact that pale skin, blonde hair, black hair, red hair, brown hair, dirty blonde hair, green eyes, blue eyes, brown eyes, hazel eyes, white eyes, pink eyes, red eyes. All those things represent true diversity and true beauty. And other peoples, they just don't possess those qualities nearly as much as our peoples do. And, we also need to remind all these anti-white, non-white haters that the only reason some of them occasionally end up with green eyes or blonde hair or, whatever, is because at some point, some of God's genetic bloodline accidentally got interjected into theirs. Okay? These are facts. How are you going to tell me that I'm not even going to go there. Anyways, fuck multiculturalism. Fuck this bullshit idea that we're all the exact same on the inside. Okay? Crime rates, dietary choices, hygiene fucking practices, and the mental capacities that differ clearly prove otherwise. I'm not saying one's necessarily better than the other. I'm just saying we're not all the same on the inside, okay? God's bloodline, God's people were specifically identified in the Bible. And everything that concerns these ideas held within the Bible, anything that concerns those ideas that are held within the Bible, it matches up with our immediate reality, and everybody knows it. The divide is more apparent now, more prevalent now than it's ever been. The left is at the point where they're trying to dox people in the hopes of instigating their demonic little fucking cohorts to assail their enemies with physical violence. Those enemies kind of represent me. Okay? This is technically guerrilla warfare. And what I was talking about is the whole certification of one of those states for this election. These people doing the certifying decided not to, and then their families were doxxed, and their children's names and their children's schools, their children's fucking elementary schools were put out on Twitter or wherever it was put out, in the hopes that some criminal would go and physically assault their child. Okay? That's what the left is. They're child murderers, okay? They're demons. You don't see a Republican or a conservative doxing a fucking liberal's child's school and what days of the week they go there and what their address is. You don't see Republicans and conservatives doing that to liberals. But you see demonic, God-hating liberals doing that to the children of God. So they can physically threaten their way illegally through criminal acts into a position of governmental power over you. The left is trying to fucking dox people. It's guerrilla warfare. It's criminal. Not only in regards to the Constitution, but also according to God's law. God gave his genetic line, the Adam, this world to possess and to control. So, as it stands, because of everything I was just talking about, we need to start defending our lands. And a lot of this warfare is going to be done in conversation and with words. And so be it. That's why I contribute. And, at this point, a strong case can honestly be made about the idea or the notion that we should maybe start rounding up some of these anti-white leftists, criminals, and putting them into not necessarily prisons, but into concentration camps. And not concentration camps where they're going to be murdered or stuck into some kind of cooking device or tortured. None of that. No. A great comfortable place for them to live in. But they need to serve their sentence out. They need to serve their sentence out because what they're doing is criminal. They want to murder people based on their skin color. They want people dead based on their skin color. That's completely evil. I never called for that. Being pro one thing is not being necessarily anti another thing. Not always. So you never see me out here calling for fucking genocide, but you see leftists out here calling for the genocide, the literal genocide of God's children. This is, so a case can be made for that. But it would only be in the name of self-defense. These hordes, they are indeed coming for our people. They're coming for us. They're threatening violence. They're fucking terrorists. They truly need to be arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Star Gods, great to have you. A legend in YouTube truth. Star Gods, everybody go subscribe. As far as I'm concerned, God's about to, basically rain down his wrath upon us once again for failing to obey his first command. We keep eating from that rotten ass family tree of knowledge of good and evil. And, no matter how open and loving these self-hating white cucks think that this makes us, the real truth is that God hates it. God hates it. He made us pure, and he expects us to stay pure. He even made it super easy for us to do. Now, ugly truth, but if you haven't figured it out by now, you can tell who is still pure by the countenance of our faces. Okay? Look up the countenance of their faces in the Bible with a Google search or whatever you want to do, a Bible gateway search. And put it all together. Read it all together and you'll see what it's about. Okay? If, we have that easy hack. We could tell by the countenance of our faces. Yet, we choose to continually throw this away for the sake of our fleshly lusts as a people. Now, I heard the man who wore a hat made of many worms. What is it? The man who wore a hat made of worms. I heard him talking about the mark of the beast. And yeah, a couple months ago I was thinking, this whole Bill Gates shot, it's going to have some kind of something in it. Not necessarily a microchip, not necessarily mass murder. What it could do, though, is neutralize God's bloodline in the genetics of those who take it so that no more can be born. So that, we could have children and everything could be normal. It's just our children will never have the true Adamic bloodline because of something they'll put in that shot. And that will be the final straw, That would be possibly the mark. But then I was thinking about it, and how I've been talking about the beasts of the field and all this stuff. I'm thinking that, the mark of the beast is technically already here. And it could be, now this is just a theory, but the mark of the beast could actually be something that many people have had for many, many, many years now. And it could be involving the idea that every time an Adamic male plants his seed in a non-Adamic womb, that little half atom already reflects the mark, if you get what I'm saying. I don't know, just a theory. Completely just a theory. So glad you guys have stuck with me. Had a little rant I wanted to get out. I've been, taking notes about those things for the last week or so. I tried to do a 4-year anniversary live stream and nobody wanted to talk except for old white guy. He showed up, but the stream wasn't good enough, so I deleted it. It's okay though, because technically the 14th is when I actually did my real first live stream, and it was a 3-hour show. I just put it on private because it was a test run. So technically when I did that show on the 14th that Vlad and Jed both joined me on, that was technically my 4-year anniversary. And what better guests could I have had? And Isa Mahalski was also on the show. What better guests could I have really had? So I think I really did already have my 4-year anniversary live stream, technically. And I did it big, and it was good. It was a real fucking good show. So, thank you guys for sticking with me. Remember, if I've contributed to your life, you can contribute to my Venmo, if you feel like it, if you feel it's so, if you want to give me that blessing. I've already had a couple really generous donations and tips already from some really key, awesome people out here, which is just highly appreciated. I could never even ask for anything else, but if you feel like being generous, it's greatly appreciated. But either way, we've been joined by Barbara McGill, not C, strange name for a band. Star Gods, Nocturnal Intern. Into the Break, XYZ. Nocturnal Intern, I already said that. Zerone. Eugene 12. Big Mac Miller Light. Ute Hoob. And Bostic. Thank you guys so much for joining me. All praise to Jesus Christ. All praise to our Heavenly Creator. I'm glad you gave me the opportunity on this Thanksgiving evening to rant and bring you these ugly ass truths. You guys are the best. This has been Validation Boy live stream, Thanksgiving, November 26, 2020.